The Mobile Workforce Podcast. Industry insights, construction perspective.
Hello and welcome back to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Merril, and today we sit down with Basys, who is a payment or credit card processing company. And we have the opportunity to speak with Chris Borchers, the CTO and Product Officer, as well as Kenny Thompson, the Executive Vice President of Partner Relations at Basys. We have a very fascinating conversation about payment systems, fees, things that are going on behind the scenes and on the back end that are costing companies a lot of money that sometimes is unnecessary. So if you want to learn how your company can either start taking credit card payments from your customers or improve and save money on the fees that you're currently spending, we recommend you check out Basys and reach out to these great gentlemen. This one's fascinating. I'm excited for you to tune in and gain some value from it. Well, thanks again for joining us, Kenny and Chris. It's a real pleasure to have you on today and excited for today's conversation.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to be here as well.
Awesome. Well, let's just start right off the bat and let me just ask, how exactly does credit card processing work?
How much time do we have today, Mike?
Let's keep it under 10 hours. Oh,
perfect.
Yeah.
I got that.
All right.
It's at a very high level view of credit card processing without getting into the weeds too much. Essentially, there's 5 or 6 steps. So from the issuing the card to the cardholder, from an issuing bank, like think a Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Capital One, somebody like that, gets into the hands of a cardholder. Cardholder uses that at a place of business of their choice. So then it goes to an authorization. So the merchant or business will authorize that credit card, and then you're either going to get the approval or decline. And then there's the post auth. And then from there, you have a settlement, and then it goes to the funding. So to make sure that the business gets paid. And then you have the cardholder billing. So that's essentially the whole ecosystem of how a credit card processing system would work.
Yeah, that all makes sense chronologically. So over the years, has that changed much or at all, or is that pretty much the way it's always operated?
It's still been pretty standard for years and years and years. So you've got, you really have the big 5 processors out there that the overwhelming majority of every single transaction in the U.S. will clear through on their rails. So you have the Fiservs, the Chases, the Elavons, WorldPay, and Global. So those are the big 5 processors out there, and most all transactions will clear on their rails.
Mm. And obviously that's a little different, I guess. The change that may have occurred historically is back in the day when they had the little machine take the imprint of the card. And I don't know if it's snail mail or how that all worked, but I know it took a lot longer for it to actually hit your card in those days, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is so true. I can tell you for 21 years now, I was the first employee hired at Basys, and we have seen a lot of change over the years. And, industry consolidation is probably number one, but a close second is, as you're talking about, going from those old knuckle busters, we used to call them, to a terminal that would swipe, and then to a terminal that would actually dip the chip cards to tap to pay. And now, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and now, software embedded payments is become the norm. So a lot of changes have happened in 21 years.
Yeah. Well, and obviously as a business owner here and, being a consumer like everybody else, there's benefits to credit cards, but from a merchant standpoint or the business actually collecting the payment, what are some of the benefits or all the benefits that they have in accepting payments through credit card processes?
Oh, I can tell you, I have a client that I've had for 20 plus years now, and they're in the chemical business, and they're exporting chemicals to Central and South America. We're talking barge types. And when they came to me and said, we used to work together in a previous life, that they wanted me to take care of their credit card payments, and I couldn't understand for the life of me why. It's to speed up their AR collections. And what they were doing is saying, okay, let's say it costs me 3% to take payment for this barge tank or a tanker load of some sort of chemical. We can go back and get net 2% from our vendors. So it was a net 1% for them to, receive hundreds of thousands of dollars within 24 to 48 hours. So it made sense for them not to have to wait for 60 to 90 days, have to go get a line of credit to cover their invoices from their vendors.
And of course, consumers love the convenience also of not having to write a check or do a debit from their bank account, right?
Absolutely. It's for the retail space. There's a number that's like 24 to 30 some percent extra volume that they're going to see if a retail store takes credit cards. So, and that is mostly due to all the wonderful Capital One commercials you see on there with, Samuel L. Jackson or Jennifer Garner nicely giving everybody miles on or rewards points on their cards. The merchant pays for that, but it increases the volume. It's kind of a win-win. I use 2 different cards myself to accrue airline miles points.
Makes sense. I think most people understand a lot of that. So let's talk more specifically to the construction industry that our audience. What are some of the unique challenges that construction faces as an industry when it comes to actual payment processing?
First and foremost, they're going to have a trusted advisor with over 20 some years of experience of really trying to exceed our customers' expectations in this payment industry. The greatest thing is we know the construction vertical as well as any vertical in the U.S. So we can work with our either hosted or on-prem environments. Our gateway is probably the secret sauce. Chris is going to allude to a little more about what makes our payment gateway a little more special. But it was designed 19 plus years ago to be to specialize in that B2B card not present payment environment. So if you're not using a gateway that is built for that environment, you could be paying a lot, way too much in your credit card processing fees.
Makes sense. And another thing, that just comes to mind, I recently had to replace a water heater. And so this plumbing contractor came and did the work. They sent me an invoice and then I asked them, hey, is there just a link I could just pay you credit card, some quick way? Because I literally don't even have any paper checks. So I don't even know if you don't give me an electronic way to pay you, it's going to be a minute and we're going to have to line, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. Text back. I'll get it to you. Well, they didn't get it to me. And pretty soon it'd been like 45 days and I'm texting, hey, have you got a link to pay that thing? And I'm pounding him to pay the bill because I don't want it hanging out there. And eventually he sent me some link that was tied to QuickBooks. It was some, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, man, if he just had a credit card payment link, he probably would have been paid in 5 minutes from sending it to me versus 45, 50 days and me hounding him, right?
It's that convenience factor. Most people don't want to be deadbeats. They want to pay. And, we offer that convenience factor we have text to pay options. We have e-invoice, options. Mobile app options, tap to pay is coming through our gateway. We're trying to make it as easy, seamless, simplistic as we can for businesses to collect that money. And not only for businesses, but for the consumer to actually, not have to spend time 45 days trying to get somebody to let you pay them.
I had the same experience, Mike, just the other day. Bought a quarter of a cow from a local processor here in town. And, it's like, here's your invoice. Well, how do I pay? You can't pay. And so those were, I'm not the sales guy here at Basys, but those turns into sales calls and handing them over to the sales team to go over. So that's our bread and butter right there.
Track every dollar for each project with Foundation, America's #1 construction accounting software. Follow the progress of your jobs and track expenses with construction billings, WIP reporting, construction payroll features, and accurate job cost reports. Build profits with precision. Get Foundation today.
Yeah, so if there's a contractor here listening and either they're not accepting payments that way at all, they don't accept credit cards currently, or maybe they do, but they're not having a great experience. What does somebody do to either get that ball rolling so they can start accepting those? And what does that look like? And then also, if they are and they'd like to get a better rate on maybe some of their fees, or there's some other things they might be missing out on, what direction can you give our audience about that?
Yeah, that's that's music to our ears. So we make it, like I said, as simplistic as possible to be able to put I guess our best foot forward for customers. In Foundation, there's a referral link in the system that they can send us. Most of the clients that we're working with came through that referral link. It's very basic information: name, contact info, email address, and somebody on our sales team that handles all of the Foundation business will reach out. They're going to walk you through every step of the process in a matter of minutes. Everything can be done online now, so it's not a lot of back and forth on the phone or trying to schedule things. We will do a side-by-side comparison. So we'll show you in real time exactly how much you paid for processing for the month that you send us in a statement. We'll do a comparison that actually shows you every step of the processing methods. So we get really detailed. Most of the people in our business, they don't do that. Hey, we can save you about such and such. We're going to tell you to the penny what you're going to be able to save. And then our awesome customer experience team takes over from there. We'll walk all of our clients through the onboarding process, and it's super simple, super fast.
So regardless, also what accounting system they use, what payroll system, what ERP, you can help any construction company, regardless, right?
Yes, okay. And yes.
Okay.
But I am the sales guy, Mike. So I always say yes.
Yeah.
With some ERPs, there may be a generic gateway that we have to use that they've already coded to. Depending on the size, I just literally right before this, I got off a call with a client that's doing about $5 million a month in credit card processing. They're with Authorize.net, which is probably the most popular generic gateway out there that everybody's coded to at some point. It gives the software partners the ability to be Switzerland, essentially. So you don't have to tell them how you're going to do it. You don't have to code anything but one time because everybody can use .net. The problem with that is it doesn't qualify transactions at level 2 and level 3, which are the most economical interchange rates for business corporate purchasing cards. So this company, I just looked at their statements, and there's close to $3 million that's running through at level 1, which is costing them about an additional 1.2%.
Wow. Yeah, it's real dollars, right? Just gone out in the ether, right? They could be saving and pocketing more of that, right?
100%.
And that's what makes it so complicated. There's these little flags, these little things that you can send to the processors, to the card bringers. And if you mess one of those little things up and you're not continuously auditing those results and staying on top of that data, then you lose that pricing that Kenny talked about. So that is having a team that's constantly reviewing our whole book of business is what really sets us apart there.
Yeah. So to restate what I think I heard you say is essentially when you meet with a new potential client, you will audit their previous month's statements, show them what they're paying where for what, and then you can do a side-by-side comparison and say, here's what it would cost you using us, here's where you would save, here's how this would net out, and really what the money you're leaving on the table by not moving to a more efficient processor like we can provide, right?
Spot on. I mean, you're a great listener, Mike. One thing we just did, so we also do 90-day reverse analysis for our clients.
Beautiful.
And we just did that with the very first Foundation client that boarded with us. And it's the best sales call in the world when you can go back to somebody and say, hey, listen, Mr. Customer, we told you we were going to save you X. We ended up saving you more than what we promised. They're never unhappy. And so they become a great referral and reference for Basys.
Yeah, that's cool. So, obviously, I mean, you used a couple of examples, and, whether a company's doing, 10,000 a month in credit card charges or 10 million, I got to imagine there's still a percentage of savings for everybody. I mean, does it vary based on size? Are there better rates based on volume, or what does that look like?
Yeah, with everything. I mean, the larger the volume, the more, I guess, down and dirty we can get with our pricing. So, but the benefits of partnering with Basys, whether they're, very small or very large. I mean, we have customers that are quilt shops that do $500 in volume a month. And, we have massive publicly traded corporations that are doing $50 million a month in volume. So the 95% of our benefit is in how we handle the account, take care of the account, nurture the account, help grow the account. The rest of it is in that savings. So the more volume you're doing, obviously, the more savings it could be. I mean, there's folks that we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in processing fees. So,
well, to restate the obvious, aside from all that, cash flow management's got to be one of the big benefits that companies are going to get by doing this versus using their own cash right out of the bank to pay for things that maybe they can sort of pace out and sort of plan on a little bit ahead of time versus, just cash out of pocket, right?
Absolutely. So the days to, speed up AR collections, via all of our streamlined payments and invoicing programs to next day funding. So if they process a credit card today, we've got one of our foundation clients is processing $250,000 plus transactions. It's in their bank account by next morning.
Oh, that's amazing. That's fast. Faster than a wire sometimes, right?
Yeah, it is. I had to wait like 3 days to get a wire transfer. I didn't know that was possible the other day.
Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, now the other thing, and I'm just want to reround back to you, talked about the barge situation. I know, if I travel internationally, whether it's for work or for vacation, man, it's easy to just swipe the card, let them do the exchange. I'm not getting jacked by some exchange rate or some third party that's, skimming off the top. I mean, those credit card companies are probably a little more aggressively, rated on their exchanges. But, any international business seems like a credit card's a great solution for that, right?
Yes, 100%. And plus the security and the insurance policy of your credit card. If something goes awry with a trip or with any kind of purchase, you have that ability to use it as a chargeback. So, but as far as internationally, 100%, you're going to get the best. You're going to get that day's exchange rate plus or minus a basis point or two, which is a lot better than 15% to 20%.
Right.
Most of the exchange little kiosks.
Yeah, or if we're down here in the States and you get a check sent to you from Canada and it bounces and they say, "Oh, come get it." It's like, what are you going to do, Well, they'd say sorry. They wouldn't say sorry, but yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's true. So there's obvious benefits for that. And you would know immediately, it didn't go through versus you got to wait for the check to clear or call the bank and hope everything, works out, right?
That third step in about, less than 2 seconds declined,
Well, and you hit a big buzzword there with security. What, aside from that, what are some of the other security benefits to making sure, obviously theft or, charges that are fraudulent, immediacy of cash, knowing that the money's valid or somebody's covering it. Are there any other things besides that behind the scenes that are happening?
Yeah, no, there's a ton to talk about here. Yeah, that's a great question. And, we can talk about, I think the most common thing that people think about is PCI compliance. And obviously, we have a whole department that does all that. Kenny can talk at length about that. But we do obviously take all of those concerns off of you with this particular integration with foundation software. But on top of that, you really do need to look at your payment processor, whoever it is, and maybe not just payment processor, but also any software you have in your shop. The common threats. Phishing attacks is the most common one that's out there right now. And for those that don't know what that is, that's where you're receiving a request from a bad actor. It looks like it's a trusted source. Somebody in your office clicks on it, and then bad things happen from there. Malware can be installed on your machines. So those are the most common things that we see and causing problems. And that leads into, well, how do you prevent that even if you have a phishing attack and you do that by multi-factor authentication? So that sounds really wordy. But that is an experience to where it takes two forms of identification to log into a system. So this is where I get kind of nerdier than maybe Kitty does here. But what that means is you can either validate a second way. The first way is username, password. Second way would be email, text, or on your phone, which everybody has one of these. So best case scenario, you're authenticating on an app on your phone. That way we know it's you. Whoever the software is knows it's you. And so those are the kind of questions that you probably need to be asking. If you're just typing in a username password, that's probably not safe enough for 2024. So that's just best practices across the board. And then with credit cards, we talked about PCI compliance and how we can help with that. We take a lot of that control off of you, but making sure that you're still on the hook for your customer card data. So whether or not you're on a law on the hook, your reputation is on the hook. So making sure that your data is being stored separately from other customers' data within those back-end systems, making sure that the encryption methodologies are all to snuff. Those are all things that you need to be asking your payment integration team to see whether or not they're doing that correctly. And the funny thing about all this, and I kind of laugh because I think I probably just talked to everybody listening into, well, I don't want to do this. This sounds too scary. But, with the foundation software integration, if you think about it as a trip to the doctor's office or a trip to the dentist's office, a lot of times you get a bill, pay online. The experience that has been built is that same experience. So you're logging in a little bit of identifying information, and then your customer is paying. So as a Basys customer, you don't have to have anybody with a login to our payment system. We handle all that behind us and Foundation with this tight partnership. All that's handled behind the scenes and is seamless for your customers. No risk here at all as far as security is concerned, but definitely some good things to think about, if you're going outside of these systems.
Yeah, my hunch is that most people are now fairly used to the MFA or multi-factor authentication compared to, a few years back. It would give you the option and I'd always say, no, don't want it. Now it brings me comfort to know, okay, if someone's trying to use my card, I'm getting a text, and it hasn't happened much, but a couple of times I got a text when I wasn't buying anything. And so, that charge, a fraudulent charge was avoided because of that. So it's nice that you have services that allow for that type of security also to make sure their money's safe and they're not inheriting a headache. Even if they could get out of it and aren't on the hook for it, they're not going to have to deal with the 3-ring circus of, working through it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just that extra level of security and sense of comfort that goes a long ways. And I agree with you. I don't like it having to ask my wife for different things, sometimes when you have accounts and stuff like that. It slows you down, but it's there when you need it.
Well, with card, I'd add this, that card testing has become such a huge issue here. People buying hundreds of thousands of card numbers and expiration dates on the black market, hacking into somebody's e-com system and running, those 100,000 transactions within 20 minutes. And we have actually gained some nice customers because their current processor did not have those security measures in place and left them hung out to dry. They ran 100,000 transactions in 20 minutes. They still had to pay the authorization fees. Even though none of the transactions may have went through, they may have paid 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 cents every single card that was authorized. So it's still a nice little expense with zero sales.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that makes perfect sense, especially on that level of volume that it could really start adding up and be real painful and expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, years of defense code there for sure.
Yeah. So are there any real quick things that people can look for that are like really, black eyes or something that can be like, okay, this is a real problem? Is there something quick that people can look at with their current process to say, you really need to look deeper into this because, I'm getting this junk fee or this rate is above X, or, what are some of the common things that people aren't aware of that are maybe easy for them to spot and realize, maybe it's time I call up Basys and see if we can get a little bit more gritty on the pricing of what we're paying right now.
Well, one of the things that we take great pride in here at Basys is our Net Promoter Score. So for those that are not familiar with what a Net Promoter Score means, it's literally the likelihood with a ranking system, how likely would someone refer you to someone else, your product or service. So it's a graph that goes from negative 100 to positive 100 being the very best. So we are in an industry that the NPS score typically hovers somewhere between negative 20. We've seen negative 27s. We've seen negative 30s in our business. From the top 5 processors out there to one of the highest we've seen is positive 15. So our NPS is something, like I said, we take great pride in. It's averaged over 75 since we started using a third-party verification firm almost 2 years ago to track that. So Customer attrition rates is another one. It's a big telltale sign with most processors. Most people are going to tell you that they keep all their customers. That's not the case. We've seen some of the top 5 processors out there run press releases bragging about keeping a 62% customer retention rate. It literally makes us nauseous. So Basys, we retain over 90% of our customers year over year. So that, I used to think it was our smiling personalities and great rates. It's not. It's our attention to customer service. We do anything we can to keep a customer happy. It's kind of one of our mottos that it's a hell of a lot easier to keep a customer on Friday than to go find a new one on Monday. And it's so true. We do, like I said, our customer experience team, 99+% of all of our calls are answered within 3 rings by a live person. And that frontline customer experience team of ours has a 96% chance of first call resolution, unheard of in the industry. Most people, they don't care. They just want to get their problem taken care of. We use a CRM tool that basically we know who's calling before we answer the phone. Pops right up. Our CX team has the last 10 calls for that client, so they don't have to start over from scratch. We know possibly what they're calling in for. We hopefully call them by name. So these things really resonate with our partners. Our number one goal has always been to make our software and our banking partners look good to their customers. And if we do that, we know that everything else is going to take care of itself.
Get complete project visibility with WorkMax Insight. WorkMax Insight uses predictive metrics to measure trends in your project so you can know exactly where your project stands, how it is advancing, and what needs to be completed to stay on schedule. Get real-time project updates with WorkMax Insight today.
Yeah, that's a great point. I won't name internet provider names, but man, I replaced a router the other day at home, and 3 hours, 3 different calls, 2 different web chats. And 4 days later, they had to send a technician out, and he couldn't get it resolved. And it was just a simple, same brand, hub that I already had. It was just a newer version, and just took forever and was just a mess and a nightmare. And I just thought, my goodness, and the fact that I had to, and I'm like, are there no notes? Like, I spent 2 hours on the phone yesterday with 2 different people, and I had to start over. And so I know, here we do the same, use an amazing CRM tool, and just knowing what people are going through and why they're probably calling when they call. So you're not having to put them through that again, and you're efficiently resolving it is a big deal. And again, especially in your space, and we've used authorize.net here as a processor before, Stripe. We're on a different one now. We've been for the years, and for various reasons, integration or different things, rates, but I know, it's 95% of the revenue now that we do is all through credit card processing. So, very big part of the business, and those expenses really start, you get into the millions of dollars of volume run through there. It really adds up. So not just a financial gain, but the hassle, the headache, the peace of mind. There's a lot of reasons to make sure that you have this tool really dialed in and that you're working with a great partner. And so it's very interesting and helpful to hear you talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that most of us are busy, doing our day-to-day business, and we're not worried about this side of it. And, it's an area where you don't necessarily have to sell more to actually keep more of your profit, right?
Yes. It's, we realize we're in that kind of out of sight, out of mind space. No news is typically good news. But we still go to that extra link to reach out and make sure that our clients and our partners are having the experience that we set out 20 some years ago to deliver. So, and you're right, it does pay off. And most people throw enough stuff on the wall, see what sticks, and then they go replace it, and they have to be selling hard. It's kind of a slimy industry that we're in. It has an NPS score of less than used car sales as a whole. So this sounds almost arrogant to say, but it's not that hard to stand out in this industry. Do some very simple things for your clients and your partners. The bar has been set so low that you could literally tiptoe over it. So we're having fun. It's fun, especially when we partner with folks like Foundation.
I really compare it to like being an offensive lineman. It's like you do all the blocking, you do all the things to make the customer have a good experience, and you don't get much credit, right? But if you miss a block and you let somebody through,
everybody's looking at you.
Right? So I think we Basys has a culture where we really enjoy that part of our jobs. We're not doing a lot of things like this, being out in front and vocal. So this has been definitely a breath of fresh air working for this kind of company.
In your minds, on a awareness level, what are the main things that companies call you and complain about initially? Is there something that stands out? It's like it's always or usually this that they noticed, and this is why they're shopping or looking.
Yeah, I think especially when I think about a foundation software customer, they might not be thinking a lot about processing credit cards. They might be, things are working fine. I've been processing checks the last 20 years. That works fine. I got somebody in the back office. They spend, 8 hours a week, and they drive the bank, and it's not a big deal, And so a lot of things that we've talked about, if they made it this far through the call, they might be a little apprehensive of change. And I think when you're looking at making that change, and that's where, I was just talking to a foundation customer last week, and he's like, man, yeah, this is going to save my team 8 hours a week, because they have these really big customers that have these really complicated invoicing solutions for. So they're sending, this is like a nationwide company, and they're sending invoices out, 50, 100 a month, and they have 5 or 6 of these types of customers. And so they don't have to do all that back end reconciliation. This payment goes to this invoice, this payment goes to that invoice. They're able to just do that real fast. And so that's going to allow that resource 40 more hours to do other things within the office. Everybody's got more problems than just, processing checks. So that enables them to do bigger and better things. And again, the other thing is that you want to make sure that it's tried and true to whatever you're trying to do. And I think since we've got so many customers that are now on this platform, we've put over 20 enhancements onto this. It's not the sales guy sitting here saying it's going to work. It's working every day. And I think it's going to be a real good experience for people that are willing to make that leap.
Oh, that's great. What about the other side? Is there anything that stands out that people don't seem to be aware of that you identify most often that's a big problem? You're like, oh man, nobody ever knows this, but it's always an issue.
Yeah, we see this a lot, with some of our integrated software partners and integrated partners. We want payments, and we want it to work, and just, it's, we know
very patient. We're a patient industry.
Right. We know we want automation, but we want it today. Right. And what we've seen with one particular customer of mine, they implemented a process without somebody internally really understanding how their processes work. They worked with a vendor that very much was like, here's your API docs, go figure it out. And so they wanted it fast, so they got it fast. But what they didn't realize as they went live, because it's really easy to build a process to accept a payment, but it's really difficult to think about, well, what are all the back-end things that are in play here? What systems have to be sunk up and different things. And so what ended up happening with this particular customer, and this was an experience with one of our customers with a different processor. They ended up double drafting, triple drafting, actually terminating services that should have been terminated. And so very bad customer experience. And the funniest thing about this is that each time that you have a problem in these kind of integrated payment suites, it's not just the root cause that you have to fix. There's a data issue behind that. You got to go figure out, well, how many customers were a part of it? So, 50 or so of these scenarios this customer went through. And when they did get the processor on the call, they were offshore. So they had to take 9 o'clock, 10 p.m. calls to get some of the processor problems that were part of the root cause of the issues, right? That to point them to the problem. So, just a nightmare of a situation. And that's where, as head of technology here at Basys, is like, when our customers are having these problems, those are our problems, and you're getting onshore developers jumping on calls real time. And we knock that stuff out real fast because we understand how important it is that those processes get fixed and that you're not running over the same things day after day, week after week, and compounding the problem. So definitely be watching out for a processor that'll work with you.
Well, not only is time money, but when they have issues with billing or payments like this, that domino effect that erodes trust with their customer or with other people involved in this that are drug into the problem, they may be making more work for themselves later because now the next one's going to get questioned on the next one. And they're going to always have that little asterisk in their head, like, oh, we've had issues with these guys before. And so maybe you're getting discredited a little bit because, you drug somebody through something, and it's not the construction company at all. It's the processor behind the scenes and maybe their integration or their process that broke down. And so, yeah, they're sacrificing credibility sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's where it's just a beautiful thing that the partnership between Foundation and Basys is that the amount of trust and the amount of attention on both sides to make that best customer experience as possible, to be live and to process, millions of dollars of transactions without any defects is just, that's unheard of in the software world. You tell anybody that you deliver new software with 0 defects, and I think anybody will take that.
Yeah. The other aspect of that is there's so many of these third-party integrations where you have a processor, you have a gateway. And when something like this happened at the client that Chris was talking about, they point the finger. It's not us, it's them. And as a customer, how do you really know?
Yeah,
so that's one of the
it's like, you idiots, figure it out. I don't want to. Why am I even here? Yeah,
it's not my problem. Yeah. Yes, fix it.
Sure.
So that's the beautiful thing. One of the beautiful things is with Basys, it's our gateway. It's our baby. So my partner's CEO hates the term, but you literally have one throat to choke here, and it's us. The buck stops here, and we have the people that Chris mentioned in-house that can fix it. Thank God we haven't had to fix anything yet, though.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's implementation. That's why I always go back to the term. Read the API docs. Well, that's great. Like you need to understand my business. You need to understand how my business is processing. And so whether you get a sales agent from Basys, like that's, you're going to get a great experience there. You get into our partner support or merchant support, you get the second layer of that understanding of what the business processes is. And then you get our technical teams. It's the same thing. We want to understand how your payment ecosystem is working so that we can make sure that, okay, well, maybe it's not this endpoint you should call this endpoint. And we can actually save you 2 or 3 calls to do what you need to do. So that's real technical. It's probably going to be a lot more technical than a lot of folks want to get to, but it's really that hand-holding that we love, that white glove service. And Kenny's talked so much about it on a customer service perspective, that having that on a technology perspective is almost unheard of.
Yeah. When that's happening behind the scenes, it's not necessarily customer facing. They don't know that attention to details necessarily happening, or they don't know why it works so well. It's just working. So they assume, well, yeah, it should work. But there's a lot of sweat, blood, and tears that go into keeping ahead of these things and making sure that they're running smoothly, just like a finely tuned engine or anything else that any other process that you're trying to perfect or at least make as smooth as possible. So that's great to hear that there's, strengths in the back end of what you guys have figured out to help your customers better as well.
It's all about keeping the quarterback safe,
I was going to say that. We got to keep Mahomes.
You don't like football at all.
Oh, man. Chiefs fans here.
Love that. Yeah. That's cool. Well, so is there anything else? We've talked about a lot of different things. I think we've really done a good job of highlighting, some of the main things that companies need to look for. Hopefully the listeners are having some questions in their own mind, even if they feel like they're in a good place, like we did when we were on authorized.net or when we were on Stripe. You don't know what you don't know. It's healthy to ask these types of questions. And, whether it's auto insurance or your payment processor, it's always good to check, a few times a year, take 1 or 2 of those calls. In this case, maybe take a call from Basys or reach out to them and see if they can actually help improve what you already have going. Maybe you're saying, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it doesn't have to be broke to necessarily be as efficient or saving you all the money that you could be saving, right?
I couldn't have put it better myself. I can't tell you how many times in the last 21 plus years that we've talked to somebody that says, you can't touch our rate. And in some cases, that's true. They have a very, 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 very good rate. But in most cases, if they're in that B2B card not present space, there's some great things we could do with our gateway. So typically we could save folks money. If we can't save you money, we're going to be the first to tell you. As you said, it makes perfectly good business sense to check it out, to spend 5 minutes, send over one of your statements. Our team will take a look at it, analyze it. We'll spit it back out, get it back to you. If worst case scenario, we tell you, hey, you're in good shape.
Yeah, what a great way to validate that. Yeah, you know what, we're doing great. You can go back and report that to your superiors and say, hey guys, I did double check on this.
Pat myself on the back.
Yeah, look, I'm still putting the work in. I'm still double checking. I still got your back, even though we're in a good spot. We're validating and making sure, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. But we're just going to make sure, right?
Absolutely. So, worst case scenario, we typically find out, even if we can match the rates after they learn a little bit about Basys, they're like, oh my God, you guys are real. I haven't heard from my processor in years, or I don't even know who my processor is. The name changed, 17 times. So I don't even know who they are anymore. That consolidation in this industry, it's crazy. Everybody is pretty much funneled up through one of those big five. We're not for sale. And that resonates with some of these foundation customers that we're finding out that are family-owned businesses. So we are family-owned. We're privately held by Brad Odo, who has been my partner for 21 plus years. And that's not changing. He's wanting to turn over the business to his three sons. And one of them is a freshman in college, a junior in college, and a sophomore in high school. So we plan on being around for a bit.
Cool. Love it. Well, it's been a lot of fun, gentlemen. I've really appreciated getting to know you both and learn more about your business. It's fascinating sometimes what you can learn on things that, again, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't know all the work that's going on, all the hamster wheels and the gears that are moving to make all this stuff happen. But it is a fascinating business. And again, another area where companies can, get that extra oil change in and make sure that things are running right. So
likewise, I've enjoyed investigating some of our research for this pod, going back and listening to some of your previous's and watching them. So learning a little bit more about the entire ecosystem in that construction, vertical with foundation.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We've got some great customers, lots of great partners. We've had some really, really awesome industry experts as guests. And again, we're all, and all of our guests, and we're not paying them to be on, and they're not paying us to come on, and we're not taking advertisers. We're just trying to share knowledge and goodness with the industry and with our peers and with our partners and our customers, because we care and we want that rising tide to lift all the boats in the harbor. So
keep up the good work.
It's been a great time. Really appreciate it, Mike. It's been good to get to know you a little bit.
You bet, gentlemen. Let's keep in touch. And again, share this out with your customers, and we'll do the same. And I'll bet you we've probably got some joint customers that we don't even know about. So
I bet so. Always do. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Mobile Workforce Podcast by Foundation Software. To hear more episodes, visit us at workmax.com/Mobile Workforce Podcast, or subscribe to the Mobile Workforce Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. And if you like the show, be sure to leave a 5-star review, share with your colleagues, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Mobile Workforce Podcast.